Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, it is December 1st, which means we are 7 days out from implementation of the absolute worst piece of gun control legislation ever passed in the history of the United States. Of course, I'm referring to Oregon Ballot Measure 114. Now, I want to give everyone down there in Oregon at least some updates and hopefully a little ray of hope that somehow, some way, we are going to be able to save your Second Amendment rights. Now, listen, there is a lawsuit kicking around. We've already done a video on that. We'll talk about that in a minute, but there is a lot more action happening, and it's happening rather fast and rather furious down there in the state of Oregon. So, today we're going to spend a few very important minutes and talk about how the lawsuit to stop Ballot Measure 114 just got some new plaintiffs. Okay, so the issue we're talking about again today is Oregon Ballot Measure 114. We have been following it here at Washington Gun Law since we first saw or kind of picked up on this issue in September as we were approaching the election. For those of you around the country who have not followed this ballot measure, the citizens of Oregon have done themselves quite proud here and essentially voted to eliminate their Second Amendment rights. Now, unlike in Washington State, where they passed the magazine ban in March of 22, and it did not go into effect until July of 22, giving us several months to kind of get prepared for it. No, the folks in Oregon, when they decide to take constitutional rights, apparently they move rather quickly, because this is scheduled to go into effect. Ballot Measure 114 is set to become effective law December 8th, 1 week from the day that we are shooting this video here. So basically 30 days after the election was certified. So there are some lawsuits going on. I want to get everyone up to speed. I also want to tell you, all the folks in Oregon, about what your Attorney General is doing to fight or not fight for your constitutional rights. Now, let's talk about lawsuit number one. We've done this video right here. We talked about that lawsuit, and there's some really, really important updates. Okay, this is the Oregon Firearms Federation v. Brown. This is the first lawsuit that was filed by the Kempf law firm. It's filed in the Pendleton Division of the U.S. District Court for Oregon, and there are several named plaintiffs in there, including the Oregon Firearms Federation, as well as Sheriff Brad Lowery of Sherman County, Oregon. So we actually have law enforcement as one of the plaintiffs on there. Now, in addition to the motion that is coming up for temporary injunction tomorrow, Friday, December 2nd at 10 a.m. That's right, there is an argument for temporary injunction. I'm also excited to report that the Silent Majority Foundation has now applied for amicus status on that case. Now, amicus, let's talk about what that is. That's a geeky word that lawyers use to try to make themselves sound smarter than they really are. Amicus essentially is, hey, we want to file a memorandum as a friend of the court. So when you have a big issue such as Ballot Measure 114, you are going to get amicus briefs on both the plaintiff side, those who are believed that Ballot Measure 114 is completely unconstitutional, and you will also find amicus briefs from gun control organizations who will tell you that 114 is the greatest thing since sliced bread. The Silent Majority Foundation, a Washington-based organization, has a long history of fighting against Governor Inslee during all of his COVID mandates, and is recently been one of the main challengers to Washington's magazine ban, which we codified in our CW 9.41.370. So the good news is for that case, that is Oregon Firearms Federation v. Brown, that the Silent Majority Foundation is kicking in. They've already filed their brief for amicus status, and they will await a ruling of the court. And one of the reasons we use amicus briefs, sometimes issues are really, really vast issues. And of course, the court gives you a page limit. It's typically about 25 pages. If you're challenging Ballot Measure 114 on perhaps, say, 3 or 4 separate constitutional grounds, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, you just can't do that in 25 pages. So if you can bring a couple of amicus parties in, now basically you're extending your page limit to 50 pages, 75 pages, 100 pages, and you can cover all of the different constitutional attacks to this atrocious ballot measure. Now, Oregon, what about your Attorney General? Well, your Attorney General appears to take the same playbook as our Attorney General up here in Washington State, because Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum of the great state of Oregon is vehemently, as you can imagine, fighting against any notion that this law is unconstitutional or any temporary injunction to stop it from going into enforcement. The Attorney General's office in their pleadings is quoted as saying, "Any move to put the measure on hold while litigation proceeds would likely result in a rush of people buying tens of thousands of more guns and ammunition before the regulations could take hold and endanger public safety." And this is in response to the fact that Oregon, on average, has about 850 background checks per month for firearms purchase. But since Ballot Measure 114 was passed, the state of Oregon's averaging about 4,100 per month. But the Oregon Attorney General didn't stop there. No. You never want to let the facts get in the way of a good argument, because she also claims any court-ordered delay of gun control measure 114 would result in more unnecessary deaths and forestall steps to reduce the risk of a massacre in this state. So that's not a big shock that the state of Oregon is saying, hey, listen, there's nothing unconstitutionally wrong with this, and candidly, we need this. We can't have a temporary injunction. If we have a temporary injunction, my God, we're not going to be able to save lives. Now, in addition to OFF v. Brown, Oregon Firearms Federation v. Brown, I am also happy to announce, and this is hot off the presses, that there is a second lawsuit which is now being filed. Now, this is the suit of Fitz v. Rosenblum. There are multiple named plaintiffs on there. There is Mr. Fitz, who is a named plaintiff on this. There is Gray Guns Incorporated. There is G4 Archery. And then, and this is really good news for you down in Oregon, folks, the Second Amendment Foundation, Alan Gottlieb, right out of here of Bellevue, Washington, and the Firearms Policy Coalition have both kicked in as named plaintiffs. So you have two of the biggest hitting plaintiffs in the gun control litigation world in the Firearms Policy Coalition and the Second Amendment Foundation backing you. The case, once again, is Fitz v. Rosenblum. It is filed in the United States District Court for the Portland Division. So this is filed in the Portland Division. The suit was just filed yesterday. We're going to put links for Oregon Firearms Federation v. Brown, as well as the new case, Fitz v. Rosenblum. We'll put links for all of that in the description box below. The big news is Friday, December 2nd, 10 a.m., there will be a oral arguments to determine whether or not the United States District Court will issue a temporary injunction to stop Ballot Measure 114 from going into effect. It's supposed to go into effect next week on December 8th. Now, there is other information also coming out that law enforcement agencies are completely clueless as to how they're going to implement this law. They, of course, have received no funding. They received no guidance whatsoever from the state of Oregon about how they are to implement any portions of this law, or have they received any funding to do any of the legwork necessary to get this law in place. So, Oregon, the clock is ticking. You're down to about 1 week left of your Second Amendment rights, but the good news is that there are many plaintiffs getting in line and trying to stop this atrocious piece of legislation from becoming law. Listen, you may have more questions about Oregon Ballot Measure 114 or anything else that's left of your Second Amendment rights, and if you do, remember, you can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or of course you call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.